And we're back. Happy New Year's, and hope you had a Merry Christmas. Very, very, very Merry Christmas, actually. Given the situation, the whole COVID situation, obviously this ain't the same Christmas and New Year's that we're used to, but as always, it is what you make of it. I know we're not used to being locked down and all these restrictions and all this stuff, but we can't control the circumstances of life. Obviously, if you're diagnosed with mental illness, you understand that. Just if you're alive, you understand that you can't always control the circumstances or what comes your way, but you can always control how you respond to it. And that's kind of how it is. I see it anyways with this COVID situation, just how we respond to it. There's some people who just, antsy and they're just miserable because they can't do what they are used to doing. And so it affects them so negatively. And then there's some people who found new joys, new passions, things to kind of enhance themselves. So it's just what you make of it. I don't think anybody can ever really enjoy the situation in a sense, like, or really would rather choose this situation, this pandemic thing, over the normalcy that we used to have. But while we're here, we might as well, gain something from it, because there's always something to be gained in all kinds of situations. So good for you if you're one of those people who can find the positive in a very negative situation. So hopefully that was good. Hopefully your New Year is good. And well, it's a new year, but it's not really a new year. It's more like a renewing of the year. It's like a resurrection, so to speak, because we've been here before. We've had Januaries. We've had the same celebrations before every year, same thing. So it's not new. It's just a renewing. And one of the things that we like to do in this point of the year is meet it with resolutions, and that's the same thing. It's not a resolutions. Usually, our resolutions that we make are not new. They're usually the same ones we made last year. Usually the same ones we made last year, and then it's like a renewing of, or rededication of, the thing that we used to have, or maybe are used to try to accomplish, but we failed, and now we're trying to rededicate ourselves to reach that thing, whatever it may be. So hopefully, if you're one of those people making resolutions, and hopefully you go after it. With the New Year's, the energy is usually pretty high. So setting resolutions, having that, it's a very energetic time. It's something that it creates. There's I don't know, this force, this thing that comes, and it energizes people to look ahead and to strive for something. But then what happens is, in the first little bit, that energy tends to wane, tends to fall off, and then people start to, that's why we're here again making the same resolutions, because we fall off. We just can't maintain the same energy. And it's important to do that. If you want to reach any goal, you have to be able to maintain the same energy. And it doesn't mean you're going to always be on a high per se, but it means that you're going to always find it in you a reason to move forward. You can always find a reason to go after the goal. You might have setbacks, you're going to fall, you're going to do all kinds of stuff, but you're going to still end up getting up and going after it. That's how you maintain that energy, right? Because the energy doesn't disappear. It's at one point where we're just spilling out. Now it kind of takes form and it just condenses itself. You know what I mean? And then it's come to a point where we don't even recognize it anymore, but it's still there. And the people who succeed are those who are able to tap into that still, right? They may not feel it. One of the things that people like to do is resolution is losing weight. And no doubt you start off high, and you're going to gym, got gym membership and all this stuff, you got a new diet and all that, and then what happened? Have membership but ain't going no gym. Diet goes out the way, back to eating fast food and junk food and all that stuff. But then there's those people who, even when everybody else gave up and back to the same old routine, they're able to tap into that thing and keep their energy going, keep their heart moving forward, keep their eyes on the prize. They continue and they reach it where the people just fail because they don't feel that energy, they don't feel that excitement. This person gave up, that person gave up, so what am I doing this for? They give up. Because if somebody ain't traveling with me, there's no point traveling at all, right? But then you got that one person who, you know what, man, nobody else gonna travel. I'm gonna walk it myself because I got my own reasons for going there. They don't need anybody else to walk it with them. They're their own person, and they reach their goals, right? So sometimes that's just what it is. With the New Year's, you don't gotta wait for new problems. The same problems from last year are gonna meet you. The problems of 2020, they don't just be falling after you and be like, hold on there, oh my gosh. You see that, guys? December 31st, they're crossing over to January 1st. We can't go beyond this line, man. We're stuck. He's next year's problem now, man. Oh, man. What are we going to do? Guess we're going to go back to live in 2020. Nah, man. That's not how it is. Your problems, they'll go ahead of you. And they'll sit on your couch, lay in your bed, and they're waiting for you to come over into 2021. They're going to meet you there. They're going to meet you there. They're going to be all ready for you. They're going to be ready for you. So the energy's high. All that's good. The hope. Everything's good. You're going to start fresh. For the same reason why you failed last year, it's going to be waiting for you to make sure you fail this year. At least going to try. So you got to arm yourself. As always, that's how it is. You got to really set yourself a battle. And a lot of times we don't recognize that life is a battle, man. Life is a battle. It's a battlefield. We don't recognize it like that. You just think it's supposed to be a fun little place where we go, we have a good time, and it's supposed to be all good and nice, and everything's supposed to go our way. And if it doesn't go our way, then it's just we don't want it anymore. We just give up. We just throw in the towel. We just think everything's supposed to be nice, and I'm supposed to be having things all right and rosy. That's not life, man. That's not reality. That's an illusion cast over your mind by society. The world we live in, it creates this false image of what life is about. And so when the real world hits, we crumble apart because we aren't used to seeing that. We're not used to feeling that. So it's good to recognize that it's a struggle. Going after anything is a struggle. Anything that's of value, it's going to cost you something. You will not get it without paying a price. Ask the person who loses weight, man. I like the example because it's something we all familiar with. Ask him what it cost him. It's a lot of sweat, a lot of early mornings, a lot of frustration, a lot of digging, a lot of persisting, determination, a lot of things, man, a lot of believing, a lot of sacrifice, and changing old habits. So it costs you. So that's what we're in for in 2021 if we're going to go after it. Now, I remember I just watched a video not too long ago of a lady, Patricia Deegan, Pat Deegan. Maybe some of you have heard of her, but she's a lady who was diagnosed with schizophrenia at the age of 17. And she went through hell, really, and a lot of some of the way she told the story. I listened to a short part of it. It was like a 5.5 minute video, and she was talking about it. And some of the things were just reminded me of my own experience with schizophrenia. And she talked about one point where the doctor was telling her that she's schizophrenia, and she can't live like everybody else, and all kinds of stuff that they want to brand you with, and ride over your mind and ride over your heart and tell you who you are and set your boundaries for you and tell you how far you can go and where you can't go and what you can do and what you can't do, that kind of stuff, right? And she said that something rose up in her and says, no, that's not me. That's not me. And she said, she just kept saying that's not me. And long story short, she ended up becoming a mental health therapist. So, listen to her story of how she was in school and dealing with anxiety, and that really resonated with me. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm making this video as well, was one, just kind of hopefully other people check out her video. I think she's a well-known lady because she wanted to prove herself to be more than what they thought of her. She wanted to be more than go beyond the boundaries and the limitations that they set for her at the hospital, or with the doctors and so forth. And she talked about a story where she was in school and writing exams and so forth, or just in class, I think it was, and she was just nervous and felt like running out of the classroom. And it reminded me so much of myself going back to school, or just going to work and going to school and so forth. And I remember being in the classroom and being so just nervous, and just the anxiety that came over me sometimes, where it's just the only part of me that had strength, so to speak, was my legs, and it's just only to run, because I was just so afraid, and started to think, all these thoughts, and that person is reading my mind, and this person's coughing is a signal to that person, and that person is clearing their throat as to because of what I said in my head, and all of it just made me so freaking nervous and sweating and anxious, and just wanted to get out of there. But I stayed, and I guess I've ran so much in my life, ran from everything, going through schizophrenia. I ran. I've been so afraid, and then when I decided that I wasn't going to run anymore, That changed my life because I never ran from any of that since that day. And being in school, I took the same mentality. Listen, when I determined I was not going to run, that I was going to take my life back, I was suicidal at the time. And then when I didn't go through with the act, and I determined to take my life back, there was a energy there. There was a hell no mentality. There was a I will not give these people 1 inch of ground anymore. And so I took on the world with that mentality, starting in my own home. If you heard my story, you know what I'm talking about. And obviously, that energy doesn't stay. When I'm on a high, that was, when it was new, it was fresh, it was just real, and it was raw. I wasn't going to be moved, but over time, that energy faded. And I was just left with being me in the midst of all this stuff. And it's like, this is real, bro. This is, it's one thing sitting in your garage talking about you're not going to run in an empty house, talking about, what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. It's another thing, it's one thing when you're high and you're feeling good, you're feeling confident, and you take on the old world. But then what happens when the next day and the next day and the next day, and you don't feel like that anymore? The energy isn't there. All you're left with is just your conviction, man. Did you really mean it or not? You're naked now. What are you going to do? This is where it gets real. But I stood. And I burned, man. I burned. I was sweating, man. But I burned. The more I stood there, the more I focused, the more I decided to stay in that class and to look at what I'm doing and to let everything go. I burned, and everything burned right off. Everything that tried to hold on to me burned off, man. Before I knew it, I was no longer burning. But the world around me was burning. The people before my eyes were burning. Everything was burning, man. Burned to ashes. And what came beyond that was the truth. Nobody cared about what I was thinking. Nobody cared. Everybody was into themselves, into their work, focused on what they were doing. Nobody gave one, nobody gave anything about me or my work or what I'm thinking or what I'm screwing up or what I'm getting it right or trying to get one over on me. Ain't nobody cared. But I would not have known that if I didn't stand in that moment. Stand in the fire. If I didn't recognize that I don't need some big motivating energy around me, within me, to keep going forward. No, what's the most important part? This is where it is. It's not when you're energized and ready. It's not the big New Year's burst of energy. That's not it. The most important part is when all of that dies down, man, the quietness. And you're faced with the doubts, you're faced with the fears, the challenges, and you don't feel it. You don't feel the energy, you don't feel the push. What do you do? That's where it is, man. That's the most important part. Because that's is what's going to enhance you. Right? Just like how it did me. When I stood there without having that big revelatory moment, that big just energized conviction, all of that. But now, because I was coming from a moment of wanting to finish myself, to end myself, tears run down my eyes, man. Just all of that, and coming out of that with just a determination to live, man. Not being pushed there anymore. That was a powerful moment for me, man. I was ready. And all of that left, all that died, and there I was. What am I going to do? And because I stood through all of that, the real world made itself clear to me, man. My eyes were open to that real world. Nobody cared, man. Everyone's doing their business. So me, I got to focus on my business. That's all that mattered there. And the illusion, it dispelled. So, going forward, whatever your goals are, man, whatever it is you're going after, if you're up for it, and you've been diagnosed with schizophrenia, you don't have to allow it to beat you continually. You don't have to do that, man. You don't have to. There's some people who are, depends where you are, man. There's some people who are okay where they're at. Some people who are not okay where they're at, who want to go beyond. And you can. Just got to be consistent, man. Know who you are. And don't wait for any special moment or special this or special that. No. It's when you are in the valley, when you are deep down, man. Not anybody can have energy on the mountain. Anybody can. When people climb the mountain, what are that? They're all energized and and they're shouting and they're, they feel good. But you bring them down from the mountain into the dirt one time and see the same energy. Huh? It's different energy down there. The air is different. It's real down there. It ain't the same shouting there. It's a different feel. So that's where you're made. It's when it's rough. It's when it's tough. And you can still go ahead. You can still do you. Still move forward, man. That's how you build yourself. And schizophrenia can't stand before that. If you're a person with a mentality like that, schizophrenia cannot stand it before you. It will give way. It has to. It's the kind of thing that loves victims. It's the kind of thing that people who cannot assert themselves, and cannot declare who they are, and cannot reach and grab something that they desire for themselves. That's the kind of people who that will sit with. But the moment you recognize that you don't have to stay with it, it'll have to leave you, man. You start to move forward like that. Because when you recognize that, you'll start moving the direction, and then you have to leave you. You have to. That's the law of it. That's the nature of it. It's not the law of it, but it's just the law of how it works, anyways. But yeah, so that's the kind of video that's what I'll make, what I want to make of it, I guess. And 2021, we'll see what it brings, man. I don't know. Hopefully, a lot of good things for you people out there, and you know, we'll see where it takes us.